So, guys, there's this video online of this woman who had a newborn child, and they're in the hospital together. And what she does is she just brags heavily about unplugging a cord attached to her child. So that way, the monitor and the system alarm goes off, and then the nurse comes in, realizes it's a false alarm. She confesses to doing that, and she wants to get the nurse's attention to get a turkey sandwich. And she's kind of in her video just like really like confident and like kind of thinks really proudly of herself that she was able to get the nurse's attention with with that behavior really. And there's a lot of things that I want to say about this. That first of all, I've worked in hospitals in the past, so honestly, there's two things that happen with this. That honestly, yes, they can write an incident report, and they can also do something like they can get security and restrain the mother and even sedate the mother so they can take the baby out of the room really. And what I mean by restraining the mother is to make sure she doesn't fight back to get the baby away from her, because there are some people who have a record of violent behavior or drug abuse or dangerous behavior in the hospital, that they had to take the baby away from them because there is liability. If a mother is doing anything dangerous towards a baby, the baby is still a patient of the hospital. So obviously they have to make sure the baby's safety is just as equal as the mother. And that's important, and that should be in this case really. Obviously they should take the baby away from her. Unfortunately, a lot of things that do happen in hospitals is sometimes they do nothing at all really. And the thing is that many people don't want to write an incident report. Many people don't want to do that thing where they have to restrain the mother and deal with her drama and her like flip out. And then the other thing that happens too with a lot of baby wards, because I've worked in one, is that they will shut the doors. So that means like if I'm cleaning and it's 7:30 and it's time for me to wrap up, go home, that door is going to shut for like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, until that incident is dealt with. And I have to call my boss and be like, hey, I can't return the cart for the morning people that I'm using during the night shift. Hey, I can't give you the phone. Hey, I need to be paid these extra 3 hours because there's an emergency. You will comp me for my time, really. So a lot of times people don't want to do that. And then the other thing too is like I've seen psych wards where when you deal with a lot of just difficult people, you eventually get fatigued. You develop the Marge Simpson thing. You're like, it is what it is type of thing. And plus, like, all nurses are very understaffed. Nurses are almost like school teachers where they have to manage multiple people. So there is a sense of, what, I'm just going to let it go because I'm overworked. And, hypothetically, what happens when you're in a situation as a nurse where, you're doing your hourly rounds, grabbing people's bloods. You have to, go into a COVID room and do that, or you have to deliver you have to like deliver food to somebody, or you have to call the EVS and say, okay, there's a discharge, there's a mess, really, or you have to do this thing, that thing, this thing, that thing, this thing, that thing. There's so many responsibilities, and then people are arguing with you all night. Really, eventually, you're going to not care sometimes, but unfortunately every situation you have to care. And obviously somebody posting a viral video like that, you have to care, because then people are going to say, okay, I know what their hospital is, we're not going to bring our babies to that hospital, because they seem to let crazy mothers get away with that type of bullshit. And I think the other thing that I would say is that obviously, yes, I would say that that is a situation where you have to take the baby away and press charges, because obviously, even though that's a monitor attached to that baby, like monitoring their heart rate and other things in their body, really, just to see if the heart speeds up really and they are possibly going to go into cardiac arrest, or it drops really, that monitor is there to say, okay, this is going on, it's going to create a noise, people are going to come in and try to resuscitate or take care of the child, really. So you unplug it and there's an alarm to say, oh my God, it's unplugged, somebody come in, really, that's still dangerous. Because what happens if there's a malfunction and she forgets to, and that alarm doesn't go off, and then the mother forgets to plug it back in, really. And then, the child dies because nobody's able to test it. And then the other thing too is that it's almost like saying, if I'm going to honestly unplug my child's alarm and they're clearly in the ICU or in a nursery where the child's receiving extensive care because they're in a bad condition, what does that say about the mother and her level of mental health and competency if she's going to unplug it for a viral video for, her priority, which is, social media controversy, views, and then also just to get a turkey sandwich, and then also to take time away from other people that are being assisted because she's like, just too selfish and too much of, a sociopath to really just, realize that it's not about her. And sometimes you got to wait a long time, really. And what we have to realize is that, it's like being in a restaurant. When you need something, you're not always going to be served for everything that you need right on the spot, really. You're going to have to wait because there's other people, really, So it's very, very despicable that you did this. And then I also will say that the other problem is that I don't really see a follow-up. There's a lot of scrutiny, but I don't see like criminal charges. I don't see an open statement of the hospital saying that, okay, if people do this, there are consequences. I don't see anything like a police report. I don't see anything like her being charged or her losing her job, really. So it creates another, what we see a lot nowadays where people do disturbing things online and people do shock value things online and then there's no consequences. So it almost says, just keep on doing that, For example, my father has heart issues. So what should I do is, should I unplug a monitor because I want the nurses to give me cheese sticks? Or, should I say that my father is dying, and then be like, oh, well, I just want you to deliver me a couple of milk. Should I just do something like press the blue code and they think that my father's dying and be like, oh, no, I just want you to give me an extra lemonade, or I just want you guys to give me a menu and I want to order some of the seafood or whatever, really. Some of the good, fettuccine, seafood Alfredo and all that. We're running into this point, and I think in this point in society where I really think there needs to be a lot more laws and regulations to say that if you do something on camera and it's a crime, there needs to be extra charges because it is premeditated. You're also doing that for attention, and then you're also saying, okay, well, disregard anything like safety and other things like that. I just want to do what I want to do, really. And that's really, really unfortunate. But it's an abhorrent thing to do. I really hope that she is prosecuted. I really hope they remove that baby. And I really, really hope that, the judges and everybody understand that obviously, she's kind of being funny with this. She thinks it's silly. She's chuckling. It's really, really clear to me that in her psyche that this is almost like a prank. This is almost like something to be like, okay, well, I worked a few people up, tee hee 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 hee. Or I'm almost just like that kid who, I'm almost like that child who told my parents that there's an emergency at home just because I want them to come home early and make me ice cream sundae. When, you have a kid like that, you spank the hell out of them, So it's definitely premeditated, and this person's definitely unapologetic. And it's a clear example, and I'll say this, of another thing we see that, in court systems, what do they always do? They always give the child to mom. Majority of times they give child to women, and sometimes when we look at videos like this, people just disregard it and be like, okay, that's just, another nincompoop, and we're going to move on to the next thing. And then also, it's also like the racial thing. If this was a black woman, we all know how this is going to happen. If this was a Latina woman, we all know the kid will be removed, there'll be a lot of scrutiny. But since it's a white woman, we know that usually when white people do something like this, it's very overlooked, or it's almost not treated as such a big deal, really, because sometimes people say, oh, the mental health card, or maybe she needs, where's her man, where's her husband, where's the father, really, he needs to be, her servant, and the other part of it is, as I said, downgrading, her behavior. There's a video online, they talked about a few weeks ago, of this man who is trying to go out of his way for his daughter, and he kind of looks really silly and goofy. And, he's actually doing a good job at people clown him. But then there's this woman who has an infant on a bed, and she's screaming in the infant's face, saying, I want to kill it, I hate it, fuck that child. I want it dead, really. I want it out of my life. And they say, oh, well, this is postpartum depression. Give her some sympathy, give her some mental health. We all need to pitch in, really. You kind of see the problem, really, that we live in this double standard of, if it's a white woman and they do all this, dangerous behavior or postpartum behavior, it usually gets traditionally overlooked. But if it's a woman of color, we don't do that. Or sometimes we do the sexist thing of, if it's a woman, in distress, really, we always say, where is the man? The man is supposed to be in there and being, treating his woman like a queen, and he's a jester, really. He's supposed to be there, every step of the way. He needs to step in and take care of that child when has postpartum depression. He needs to be there every minute, delivering that sandwich, working 16-hour days to pay that hospital bill, delivering, making sure her sandwich is right, making sure, all these things, really, like bowing down to the woman, really. We kind of live in that culture of the Jules and the Rochelle, really, of bowing down, really. But these videos have to really highlight that, it's true that there are women who are unfit to be mothers. There are people who take, endangering their child to get attention or to get what they want, really, like social media views. A lot of just, they just do that for themselves. They do that and they don't care that they could have caused a bigger problem, really. So you need to have appropriate consequences, or people like this never really learn their lesson. So, she's totally, a despicable person for doing this. I really, really hope that they do file an investigation and they do take the baby away from her and then she's charged appropriately. If not, then, then fuck that hospital and everything like that, really, because it's another case of entitled, dangerous, unapologetic behavior being rewarded with a turkey sandwich or being rewarded with Instagram views and other things like that. Please hold people accountable for their behavior, and let's get past gender stereotypes and racial stereotypes and hold everybody accountable for what they do and how they treat their children.